In the previous segment, I mentioned about the flow experience. It's called the optimal experience. You can research more about it. And as I said, if you understand flow, you basically unlocked life. So let me go ahead and elaborate a little bit more on how this relates to passion. Now, I'm not sure if you had this experience, but I'm sure that you did at some point of your life. And that is when you are so into doing something that you love, time just flew by without you noticing how much time you have spent. That is flow. Okay? That is flow experience right there. A lot of students, I think you might have experienced something like this, like playing video games or watching videos on Instagram or TikTok, you know. So what is flow in a nutshell? And that is something like this. To have flow experience, there must be a perfect match between the challenge and your ability. Now, if there is a mismatch of the challenge level and your experience, then you have all kinds of weird stuff coming out. Like if you are highly experienced, but the challenge is too easy, too simple, you just get bored. Okay. Like if you're a high school student right now and I give you some like elementary school math to do, you'd be like, oh, that's easy. You're wasting my time. Like that's the case. Like that is the evidence of you not having a flow experience. Now, if you have extreme challenges, but your ability is somewhat low, then you do not have flow experience. Instead, you will have anxiety. Students become anxious and worried, and they are very worried. And I've seen this a lot because the school that I used to teach, it's known to be challenging. Well, that's okay, but you need to equip the students at the same time, but the students were not properly equipped. And therefore, a lot of kids, they are so scared and they are stressed out and they resort to something like cheating or just memorizing the whole thing. And if they do not get the results that they want, and they just collapse. They crumble, they cry, they just feel like heavily defeated. So that's why flow is so important. Like if you understand flow, you can also explain a lot of weird stuff going on. Like, have you ever heard like doctors? Doctors, okay? Like they know their health. They know health. They know body. And sometimes the doctors, they can also become alcoholic. They have like they do smoking, they drink heavily. Like why? Well, because sometimes their work is so boring. Like they are so good in doing all these surgeries, and that's all they do. Like day in, day out, they do the same surgery and they do not find it challenging anymore. So guess what? If you are not having this flow experience, you will have all these addictions. Like for example, another example, have you ever heard like some wealthy, like rich people, they would go and steal things? Now you can just Google like rich people stealing something. There are plenty of examples out there. And why would they do that, you may ask? And that's a very valid question. Like, you have money. Why don't you just buy it? Well, it's the excitement, it's the challenge, because that gives them the flow experience. Now, I learned about flow experience. It was a very interesting incident. How I discovered this thing called flow, it was during my PhD program. And yes, I did not get my PhD, but yet I was in a PhD program for 1 year. So in that year, I was assigned to make a game. And I was like, okay, that should be easy. Let me just make up a game. But then I asked a very simple, yet a question that I didn't know the answer. And that is, what is a game? What is a game? Like, I can tell you a lot of games like basketball, soccer, right? All kinds of games, video games. But what is a game? What makes a game a game? So what I did was that I looked up game design courses and look at their syllabus or syllabi and see what they teach. And over multiple syllabi that I viewed, I saw the same thing. That in order to learn game design, you have to read the Ender's Game. You have to understand what flow is. Now, I'm not a fiction person, so I did not read the Ender's Game, but I read more about flow. And after I learned about flow, I was like, oh my God, I got a new lens to look at games. So essentially what it is that in order to have a game, you have to have a goal. Like for example, soccer. Okay, I love soccer. I play soccer. And the goal is very easy. You put the ball into the goal, right? That's easy. But there must be a challenge. The challenge is what? You cannot use your hands. You can use your feet, you can use your head, but you cannot use your hands. How about basketball? Well, basketball is easy. Just go ahead, put the ball in the basket. But what's the challenge? The challenge is that you cannot just hold the ball, you gotta dribble. You can walk 2 steps only. How about golf? Golf, it's easy, right? Just put the ball into the hole. But you cannot do it with your hand nor your feet. You have to do it with a stick. So that's what a game is. And then I look at video games. I often wonder, like, I'm not sure if you have played a game called The Angry Bird or like Fruit Ninja. Like these games, they start off very, very easy. And I was like, well, that's easy. Okay, let's keep playing. Well, that's exactly the design, because they don't want to just give you the hard game, because if they just give you the very difficult challenges, that would turn you off. So at the very beginning, you need to equip some skills. You're going to learn how to play the game. So they give you some easy challenges. And that's also how I shaped my own teaching philosophy. And that is, you want to make great students, you want to teach students to be great, no problem. But you don't just test them on something that's difficult. It's just like if you want to learn how to play chess, you go step by step. You don't just say, oh, okay, you want to learn how to play chess? No problem. Let's get a chess master right here to play with you. Well, you're not going to learn anything, because the challenges are so great, and that would just turn you off. So that's the reason why I said, if you truly understand flow, you unlocked life, because you understand what life is all about. Now, as I said earlier, I've got a son, and after my son was born, of course, I taught him some skills, right? Ever since he could have some kind of mobility, and I kept observing him. I was like, I wonder, from what age would babies want to have flow? And the answer is from a very young age. Like the moment that they learned how to do some simple tasks, they kept on doing it. And guess why? Because it gives them flow experience. They have the challenge, they can overcome the challenge, and they feel good. The same thing is true about animals, like pets. How to train a dog, a cat, we could do all these tricks. They need to have flow as well. And that's why it's so important to learn about flow. Once you realize that flow is something that's evolutionary, like we all want to chase flow. And when we don't have flow, we would naturally seek flow anywhere else. Anywhere. Literally anywhere. And that's why those rich people, they would steal things, because they got nothing better to do. They got all the money. They can get whatever they want, but they need something to spice up their life. They need some challenges to fill their existence. That's what they did. Now, a little sneak peek of something down the road in the future. So I proclaimed that if you understand flow, you understand life. You unlocked life. But recently, I also learned something new. It's called evolutionary mismatch. Now, more on that later. You can research it on your own, but I'm going to modify my proclamation right here. And that is, in addition to flow, if you understand evolutionary mismatch or mismatches out there around you, around your life, you will also unlock life. Okay. And actually, I would talk about this in episode 6 when I talked about choosing major. Okay. Like how we choose major and how we're not the same as our parents or grandparents. It's related to evolutionary mismatch. So this is the reason why you need to have passion. And if not, the hole, it gets pretty deep. You cannot even figure out what is going on in life unless you know your flow experience. And I also want to share something with you about an interview. Also during my only year of PhD program experience, all students were assigned to do an interview with some award-winning professors, and I was able to interview a professor from University of Houston. I'm not sure if it's main campus or outer campus, but anyhow, it's one of the two professors about on future studies. We were talking about play versus work somehow. And he said something that's very true, okay, and I would like to share with you. I want to share with you, and that is when you are actually working on your passion, working on something that you love to do, is that working or is that playing? Now, of course, the word play right here is not like just, goofing around, that kind of play. We're talking about serious play. We're talking about how you are playing with ideas, you are playing with experiments, how you are playing very seriously. And this is something that I would also like to share with you all, with all my audience right here. And that is, well, at least in Asian culture, we are heavily against play because the idea, the perception of play is a waste of time, is nothing serious, but that's actually wrong. Okay? When you are serious about working, well, working is like playing. You can't really draw a line to separate play and work. They are the same thing. Like right now, am I working to make this podcast? Well, you may say it. I mean, I don't get paid for doing these podcasts, but am I playing? Oh, definitely. I'm definitely playing and I'm having a lot of fun and I'm having a strong flow. Like I've recorded, like we are what, like 30, 40 minutes into this podcast and I'm still going strong. I still have a lot to share and time just flew by without me noticing it. And I believe that if something is substantial, I'm doing this long form video. I'm not doing a TikTok short, YouTube short video to cut it. It's not going to cut it. It has to be explained in detail. And that's why I choose to do these long podcasts. So again, it is very important to have passion. And it is not okay if you don't have passion because you would not have flow and then you would end up having all these addictions or you would adopt these vices and your life would just spiral down and you would go off track and nothing good comes out from not having a passion. Okay, so I hope everyone's clear about this. Now, I would like to share a little bit of a post thoughts with all my listeners right here, especially for any high school parents listening to this podcast episode. As I was editing this particular part of the podcast, I came to realize one thing, and that is the way I make it sound like, oh, yeah, passion is very important. Yes, it is. And as a parent myself, how would I look at this particular question? Like, oh, yeah, passion is very important. So my son, my daughter should find out as early as possible. That's what Mr. Chan says, right? And I want to add 2 cents right here, just sharing what I feel as a teacher and also as a son with my parents' expectations. Now, yes, it is very important, but no, do not force your child to find out their passion. The whole finding passion endeavor it's really important that it is self-initiated. If this whole exploration, this whole finding passion process is pushed by some external force, this journey, it's not going to be pleasant. I can easily recall the moment where my mom pushed me, forced me to stay in the course, to learn how to play the piano. And her primary argument was like, there were a few arguments. They were like this. Number one, well, if you learn how to play the piano well, then you can at least have a stable job of teaching other kids to play the piano. Okay. Two, we have invested so much in you, like to meet me, to learn how to play the piano, and you can't just give up like this. No, it was a huge moment. I knew my heart was not on the piano. My heart was on some sort of music, but it's definitely not on the piano side. And I was searching something that would help me have fun while I was playing the piano. But to be very honest, the moment of joy was like, if I have to put a percentage, maybe like 5 to 10% at most. I think the most joyful part is that I could use what I learned from playing the piano, and then I can use it for my school tests and exams. And I got like superb results on the school exams because, I got the extra help. So, of course, I would score really well in school. So, it's very important that as a parent, you want to play this facilitator, supporter role instead of being a supervisor and say, all right, son or daughter, you've got to set a deadline on when you need to find or confirm your passion. That is unlikely going to yield any good or great results or desirable results if that is the way to play this path. So I would just say this, it is a natural process. And that's why I said it's like fate. You can't really push it too hard. And if your child does not want to take on this journey, okay. Now, you may kind of talk to him a little bit here or there, and it's just like putting some seeds into the soil. You don't know when the rain's going to come for the seeds to germinate. You just don't know. But hey, just keep on putting the seeds out there, and then maybe sometime sooner or later, it will sprout, it would grow, it would thrive, and it will be very, very gorgeous. And there will be a lot of fruits, not just for you, but for your child to enjoy. And I would also add one more emphasis, and that is, I think the focus needs to be put at the right spot when we parents are communicating with our child or when teachers are communicating with the students. And that is, while we are focusing on passion, I would always emphasize that it is not for me as a teacher, not for me as a parent. Ultimately, this is for you. As my mom would always tell me this back in the days, whatever you decide, it is for your own future. You live that future. You get to decide what kind of future you want to live. And I think this is very, very important because without this understanding, then the child or the students would just assume that whatever they do is to satisfy your demand. And that's not intrinsic. That's not genuine. And there would not be any sense of belonging for the benefit of the child. And I can share with you that I am able to devote myself, my life, my energy, my time to education is because it is my decision, it's my path. At the same time, it is extremely important that they need to learn how to make a decision. And yes, it is scary sometimes to make a decision because of all the possible negative consequences. But in the meantime, it is extremely valuable to understand that nothing comes to us risk-free. You would have to calculate the risk. You have to do your own research to see like, oh, what's the upside and what's the downside of your decision. And speaking of decisions, I would also like to share with my listeners, my high school student listeners, this. There are many decisions that you are making on a daily basis. But in terms of life-changing decisions, there won't be a whole lot. I would say maybe somewhere between 3 to 5 or 6 decisions from your late teenage years or mid-teenage years all the way to your early 30s, maybe 40s. Okay? Like one major decision every what? Every 3 to 5 years? Okay, that sounds about right. Every 3 to 5 years, you engage yourself in this whole reflection, evaluation, prediction, anticipation process, and see that, oh, what should I do? How should I position myself for the next few years? It is very important to learn how to make decisions. And when you make a decision, it's also important to know how to execute the decision properly. Just like me, right now, I made the decision to make a podcast for high school students, for my son, for anyone who could find some help from my podcast. And then now I have to execute it to my expectation, to the best that I could. I wouldn't say this is the best podcast that you have ever listened, but I would say, well, I would do my very best. As I said in episode 0, I'm not going to give you the best audio, the best visual, the best sound effect, graphic effect. No. But it is my mission. It is my decision to execute this podcast to the best ability that I could offer. So I hope you understand more about passion. And I hope you understand that it's a very organic process. Time, yes, the clock is ticking. But don't feel urged. But don't delay. Don't procrastinate. When there is a question in the back of your mind, address it. Try to find an answer for that particular question. And to conclude this episode, or this part of the episode, I would like to say my final few words here. It was from a little conversation that I had with another student, but it's not the first time that I said it, but I would like to say it here. I hope my words are at least somewhat inspirational. And that becomes a problem. And why would it become a problem, you may ask, or you may wonder. Now, I myself have listened to some podcasts, some speeches, all right? As I said in the previous part of the episode, I said, oh, you got to listen to the Steve Jobs 2005 Stanford commencement speech. It is easy to feel inspired. It's very easy. There are a lot of inspirational materials out there. But be aware of one thing, and that is, it doesn't matter how inspirational my speech or other people's speeches or podcast episodes are. It doesn't matter. What matters is that after you feel inspired, will you act because of this inspiration? If you are inspired and then you do nothing, then the value of this moment of inspiration is simply zero. I want to remind all the listeners out there, if you are feeling inspired, great, I'm very happy. And I'll be even happier that you take this inspiration to the next level where it should be. And that is the level of action. You act accordingly. And then maybe you can drop me an email, a comment to say like, oh, Mr. Chan, after listening to your podcast, I did blah, 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 blah. I'll be so touched. I will feel so empowered. I will feel so proud of you, whoever you are. And maybe someone whom I have never met before. And that's okay. Because I'm very happy and satisfied that I have done something to change at least one person. Thank you for listening, and I really hope that you truly enjoyed this part of the episode. And when we come back next week, we are going to address the final question of this 4-part series. And that is, why is it important to find your passion as early as possible? Well, stay tuned, and I'll see you next week. Thank you. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.